Hello again, seventh graders. It's our second lesson of week one. Again, my name is Miss Swastowski. I'm your summer school teacher. If you would like to call me Miss S, that's more than fine. And let's get on with the lesson for today. Let's go over daily expectations for summer school because it's only our second lesson. So every day, Monday through Friday, you're going to check in on Schoology conferences so I can mark you present. And that's really important because after 3 absences, according to summer school rules, I have to drop you. So for those of you who had technical difficulties yesterday but were able to call me, email me, or message me on Schoology messaging, don't worry, I marked you present. So if you're having issues, I'm not going to count that against you. Just let me know that you had issues so I can mark you present. Okay, so after you check in, you're going to listen to the daily assignment. Basically, every day we're going to have 2 lessons for you to read on GradPoint and 2 quizzes for you to take on GradPoint. Okay, so after you listen to the daily assignment, you read on GradPoint, you complete your 5-question quiz. Remember that you cannot move forward in GradPoint unless you finish your quiz, and also unless you click on all of the options on GradPoint to move along in the slide. So most important is the 5-question quiz. If you fail twice, you have to let me know. And what that shows me is that you're not taking your time reading and taking the quiz. All right, let's talk about how to get into GradPoint. So you're gonna click on Schoology, or you're gonna be on Schoology, apologies. You're gonna click on Material. Our page looks like this. Click on Material, and there is a blue folder called GradPoint Links. You're gonna click on GradPoint Links. It's going to bring you to another folder, lots of folders. You're gonna click on School 72 Summer Hub. And then once you click on it, it'll show you that link. You have to use this link. You cannot Google GradPoint. It has to be this link. If you don't follow this link, you're going to have issues logging in. Okay, so you're going to click on the link. It's going to bring you to GradPoint. Your username is your 900 student number. Let me know if you don't know what that is. And your password is your usual password that you use to log into your laptop. Schoology, Clever, Prodigy, it's all the same for BPS. Okay, and just a reminder, there's 2 options for my summer class. Option 1, you check in on Schoology Conference to be counted for attendance. Option 2, you stay on Schoology Conference to read through the GradPoint summary with me, like some of you did yesterday. And then you take the quiz before the next class. I don't care when you take the quiz as long as you're doing it before our next class so you're not following behind. So that's option 1. Option 2, you check in on Schoology Conference, just like option 1. So that doesn't change. Every day, Monday through Friday, until July 31st, you have to check in on Schoology Conference. Or if you're unable to do that because you're having computer problems, message me or get in contact with me. Okay, then you're going to watch GradPoint Summary on YouTube. And I'll always make a copy of my lessons on YouTube because, sometimes the internet doesn't work. And then at some point before the next class, you are taking the quiz. Okay, so 2 ways you could do it. But don't forget, you got to check in first. I got to see your name or I got to get a hold of you every single day, Monday through Friday, until July 31st. Okay, so let's get into what you need to do for today, which is Tuesday. You need to read Looking Inside the Cells up to In the Cytoplasm on GradPoint. You need to take the quiz Inside Cells and the quiz in the Cytoplasm on GradPoint. So here are 2 chapters, here are 2 quizzes. Okay, again, getting into GradPoint for today. Click on Unit 1. It's going to bring you to these chapters. I need you to click on 1 again, Introduction to Cells. And yellow is what we did yesterday on July 6th, and red is what we're going to do today, looking from cells all the way to in the cytoplasm. So that's today's lesson. All right, let's get started on the Looking Inside Cells summary. Remember, a summary is not all the information, it's just the most important information that is kind of narrowed down for you. So if it seems random right now, it's because you got to go back and read GradPoint. But while you're reading, I want you to think of these main points. All right, so today we're going to learn about organelles, which are tiny parts inside a cell that do one specific job or function. All the parts work together like different buildings in a city to make the cell live. So you can think of organelles like different buildings in a city. You've got your hospital, you've got your bank, your fire department, your post office, and they all work together to make the city run. So organelles are the same. So if you look inside the cell, not on the outside, but on the inside, you see all these different shaped and colored structures. These are organelles, and we're going to learn about some specific organelles today. Okay, so let's talk about the cell membrane first. It surrounds the cell like a fence and can control what comes in and out of the cell. I think of it like a bouncer who's like, oh, you can come in the club, you can come in the club, no, you can't. Or if you're acting crazy, they're like, you get out. Or you can think of it like a border, right? Like right now, we can't cross the US-American border because of coronavirus. So the people who work at the border are going to be like, okay, you're essential, you come in, you're non-essential, turn around. Okay, you need to get from Canada to America, you can go. So that's what the cell membrane is like. All right, next we're going to talk about ribosomes. And there's these teeny tiny little organelles that look like dots, and they produce or make proteins. And most of our body, guys, are made of proteins. So proteins are super important in plants and animals. Sometimes people call them protein factories because that's all they do is just make proteins 24 hours a day. All right, now we're going to talk about the nucleus, which is this big guy smack in the middle. Kind of looks like an eye in this picture. It is like the brain of the cell and directs all the cell's activities because it has so much important information in it. So that's why we call it the brain or sometimes the computer of the cell. Okay, so again, the nucleus is so important. It's called the brain of the cell because it has a lot of important parts. So we're going to learn about those important parts. So let's look at a picture. The nucleus also has holes on the outside called pores, just like pores in your skin, that let material in and out of the nucleus. The pores can be found on the nuclear envelope that surrounds the nucleus. So the nuclear envelope is just like a fancy word for the covering of the nucleus, and within that covering there's holes, and this lets things get in and out of the nucleus. Most importantly, it lets genetic material get in and out of the nucleus. Okay, so here are the pores, and here's the nuclear envelope on our picture. Next, we're going to learn about inside the nucleus, there's something called chromatin. And chromatin are thin strings or strands of unwrapped DNA that will float around the nucleus. So DNA is your genetic material. It literally gives your body instructions on what to do. And chromatin is like basically like loose spaghetti of DNA just floating around. Eventually, it will wind together to make chromosomes, which are those fuzzy little X's that we use for cell division, but not right now. It'll happen later. And we also have something called not the nucleus, but it's called the nucleolus. So whoever named the nucleus was really cruel because he named the overall structure the nucleus and something inside the nucleus the nucleolus. And why is that important? Well, because the nucleolus makes ribosomes. And remember, ribosomes are an organelle that makes protein. All right, now we're going to talk about a special type of cell that is not a plant cell and is not an animal cell. It's its own type of cell called bacteria. So bacteria are single-celled organisms that can sometimes make you sick. So here's what they look like underneath a microscope, but if I were to draw them, you would see that they kind of don't have a lot of parts if we compare them against a plant or animal cell that we are looking at. They're very simple. So they only have ribosomes, a cell wall like plant cells, but no nucleus, and that's super unique. So they only have a few organelles, ribosome, cell wall, no nucleus. So that makes them really different. And again, they are single cell, which means just that one cell can do everything that the cell needs to do to live. Remember, you and I and our dog and our cat and our plants outside, we are multi-cell organisms. And remember, organism is a fancy science word for a living thing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second chapter called In the Cytoplasm. So hopefully You pause the video and go and try to complete the first quiz, which is, I already forgot it, in looking inside cells. And now we're moving on to the second chapter summary. Okay, so plants and animals, we're not talking about bacteria, just plants and animals, they both have a nucleus, ribosome, cell membrane, mitochondria, which makes energy for the cell, and something called a Golgi apparatus, which transports or moves protein around the cell. So no matter what plant or animal cell you're looking in, you're going to see both of these organelles in both cells. But sometimes a plant cell will have a different organelle than an animal cell, and that's what we're going to learn about. All right, let's start off with plant cells. So here's a picture of a plant cell, and you notice that it's square shape. And that's because plants have a cell wall. So plant cells almost have like a double fence. They have a cell membrane, and then they have a cell wall. And so the cell wall is just extra protection, and it also gives plants their square shape. Remember that plants, unlike animals, they don't have a skeleton, right? But they're able to stand up straight. So one of the reasons that they're able to stand up straight is because they have that cell wall. Another special organelle that's found in plants is a chloroplast. So a chloroplast actually makes food from the sun for the cell. So plants don't have to go to Popeyes, they don't have to go to Subway or Wegmans, they don't even have to go and hunt. They're able to just exist outside, and as long as the sun is shining, they can make their own food. They also have an organelle that's very big and takes up most of the space, and that's called a vacuole. And a vacuole is like a Rubbermaid container or Tupperware bin that just stores stuff, particularly food and waste. And why is it so big in plants? Well, because plants make their own food. They need some place to store it. So again, the organelles that are specific or unique to plants that you're not going to find in animal cells are the cell wall, the chloroplast, and a large vacuole. All right, well, let's look at animal cells. You can already tell that they're a different shape from plant cells because they don't have that cell wall. Okay, but animals have a special organelle called a lysosome, and that's an organelle that breaks down old cell parts. So it's like having a recycling plant inside the cell. They also, here's a lysosome, they also have very small vacuoles, and again, that's because animal cells don't make their food from the sun because they don't have chloroplasts. So the special organelles that are found just in animal cells, again, are lysosomes and a small vacuole. That's how you could tell the difference between plant and animal. If the vacuole is small, it's probably an animal cell. Okay, guys, that is it for our summaries. Please remember, before I see you again tomorrow, to read Looking Inside Cells all the way to in the cytoplasm and take the 2 quizzes, inside the cell quiz and in the cytoplasm quiz on GradPoint. See you tomorrow.